This is Jimmy Song, and with me today is Tone Vase. I forgot to say the date. It's December 5th, 2017. Tone, you want to say hi?
Hey man, this is so early in the morning.
Oh, God, yeah.
Hey everyone.
You're still in Colombia, is that right?
Yeah, I'm still in Colombia, and let's hope. He's some good for good parties the first day after the conference. Can't believe they're starting it at 8 in the morning. I mean,
Yeah, after the videos I saw on your Twitter, it's just kind of
dude, and I'm
crazy.
like, I tweeted out that the party's coming to an end, and I'm like, wow, what the hell was I on? The party went on for like 5 more hours.
All right, then let's take a look at some stories. All right, the CBOE says it will start trading Bitcoin futures on December 10th. So that's like next Monday.
I know. I'm still like, I haven't even had time to do videos to talk about the CME futures.
Uh-huh.
The CBOE futures are coming out. I haven't seen the spec. I have no idea what their parameters are. This story comes out of absolutely nowhere. I'm familiar with the CBOE as far as their options are concerned. Like, I'm not really familiar much with their futures market, just like with the NASDAQ. Like, look, I'm going to stick to the CME futures in my trading. I'm going to go and take a look at the details of the CBOE futures, but they just pulled out of nowhere, and they're going to be ahead of the CME. I don't know. CME really knows what they're doing. CBOE does as well. I mean, they run most of the options derivatives.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to say, I need to go and take a look at the spec. Is there a spec link in there we can glance at?
No, it just says,
There has
there's
to be a
nothing.
spec.
I didn't see one. This is Bloomberg, and I don't know. Maybe
And there's no
that one.
link to the CBOE like future spec.
No, nothing that I see.
That's weird. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's all I can say.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll bring you more news like this week on that, and we'll definitely take a look.
Yeah. So that's kind of a big deal. I'm kind of surprised. Is it normal to trade futures instead of options, since options are what they do? Can they trade options and cash settle them somehow, or is that something that's not possible?
Well, uh, if CBOE is now involved, they're going to try and go to options, but that's going to be, that's going to be kind of crazy. The options, I don't know. Options on Bitcoin make me a little nervous, but again, I can't wait. I really can't wait. So let's see. Let's see what they come up with, but. I'm trying to look for their spec, but
Yeah, I don't know.
out of nowhere.
Yeah, it does. I guess maybe they have all the tech ready and they just wanted to spring it on people. Well, anyway, we'll figure out what that is. All right, local Bitcoin sets biggest gain ever as Venezuelans exit fiat. So you can see the chart here. It's up and to the right, which everyone likes to see in any sort of thing like this, but. Yeah, the past week they had 90 million in volume on local bitcoins. I guess that's not ultimately that much, given that they're exchanges trade something like 50 billion in a week on some weeks. So your thoughts on local bitcoins volume exploding?
It's great. It's great, and it's actually going to explode in light of the new government regulations that they're going to try and criminalize concealed storage, right? So therefore, it's going to become much harder for you to take that Bitcoin, buy that Bitcoin from Coinbase and store it yourself. You'll be taking a risk. So yeah, you're going to be going to local Bitcoins, and also keep in mind those volume numbers from local Bitcoins. They're grossly understating how much volume they're doing, because once you meet a dealer on local Bitcoins, there's no reason for you to do it through local Bitcoins escrow, right? If you already have a connect, just to put it in terms we're used to.
Yeah, if you know somebody, then maybe you keep using that person. All right, anyway.
Right.
Cool stuff. Hopefully the numbers keep going up, or you'd expect that as the price goes up that they do more volume.
You
in
just have to
dollar terms.
Right, but when you look at those charts, like when you look at the global chart, that one's probably fine because it has to normalize like into dollar terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at individual countries, you really have to be careful because people are like, oh my God, Bitcoin volume in Russia is blowing up, but it's telling you in like Russian rubles that we're like devaluing like crazy during that time. So you really have to be careful with that because a lot of these individual country charts, they denominate in local currency. So if local currency is really devaluing against the dollar, that chart is grossly skewed to the right. So you always have to normalize it into USD.
Yeah, and even in USD, I feel like, I mean,
Yeah.
the US dollar is also devaluing against Bitcoin significantly every day. So, all right, third story. SEC emergency action halts ICO scam. The SEC filed charges against the recidivist Quebec securities law violator Dominic Lacroix and his company Plex Corp. I don't know how much they had raised, but apparently they raised it says $15 million, promising a 13-fold profit in less than a month. So I think that's the part that got the SEC to do something about it. As far as I know, this is one of the first actions by the SEC against a specific ICO. Your thoughts, Tone?
I believe this is the second, the third. I have seen these. They did go after like two others that were like blatant Ponzi schemes. But so two thoughts on this. One, several thoughts. One, they're still going after the low-hanging fruit. Like they're going after the easy ones, right? I mean, you say you're offering some kind of a crazy return, well, like it's easy, a low-hanging fruit, right? Well, like the big ones are coming. It just takes them, a little bit longer. Again, just one. I mean, they could have done this thing on like a dozen companies. Now, what people have to realize, notice what you said in that first sentence. SEC going after a Canadian, right?
Yeah.
Company, right? And this is what these people have to realize. Your jurisdiction is irrelevant to the SEC. It really, really is. I mean, it may not go after one in Russia. It may not go after one in China. But if your country, isn't a nuclear power, the SEC will get you. I mean, they don't really care where you're based. The moment they can prove a single American is holding your the security of your, promised ICO, you're done. I mean, they can go and get you.
Yeah, and they do have they do seem to be sort of a global police in a way because they're able to come after you regardless. By the way, Tone, I don't know if this is what you were looking for, but here's the CBOE.
I actually pulled it up already.
Okay.
I actually pulled it up. Maybe I was going to do my screen share. And
all right, so we could talk about that later.
Yeah.
All right, so next story is on-chain fork futures. This is talking about how to utilize replay protection and use script to be able to trade, fork futures essentially. And this is similar to what was talked about at Scaling Bitcoin. It was trading with Roger, or sort of like imagining that there's a 2x hard fork coming, and then you somehow basically trade with Roger before the fork happens, so that you have some future of the coin that you like versus somebody else. I mean, it's actually pretty interesting. Basically, you need to utilize replay protection. There's this nice flow chart here that tells you exactly how you're supposed to do it, and you have to do like several transactions and stuff like that, and that's more or less how you get it done. But yeah, it's an interesting method of.
Hey, Jimmy, can you move my camera down to the bottom right-hand corner?
So
this looks a little complicated already. Hold on.
It's very complicated. And part of it is there.
This looks like the Lightning Network here.
It does, because you need like time locks, and you need to send things over, and you need valid signatures, and then once everything is signed, then basically you broadcast one of the transactions, and then somebody gets refunded something on one chain but not on the other, etc., etc. It's fairly complex, but the fact that you can do this is pretty amazing.
So who? Couple. Oh man, this flow chart reminds me of like the joke one, like, do you need a blockchain? And they all ended like almost all of them ended like no.
Yeah. It makes sense.
So who wrote the article and who's responsible for this code?
So who wrote the article? Well, I don't know who actually wrote it. Let me see. Go.
That might be important. I don't want this to be another
Presswich.
All right.
Let's see. Former founder and COO of Storage Labs. Well, I mean, I'd have to review it. I haven't seen any of the code, but the idea I think is very interesting, and we can definitely.
It is, and my first question of skepticism is, the code will have to be thoroughly reviewed, right? Because we don't want this to be the DAO on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It would be more at the wallet level, I think, than say the core dev level. So that's just something.
I see.
All right. Anyway, it's interesting. I'm hoping that future forks can sort of. I know there's a lot coming. There's 3 this month. There's going to be even more in January and February, depending on how expensive those fork coins get. But yeah, this is coming. So having something like this, especially a contentious hard fork, would definitely help. All right.
No, I think it's pretty cool. Let's see. And again, like, what happens when if the fork gets canceled by one guy, right?
I think that case is handled, and you have to look through like the failure cases and all that stuff.
Cool.
All right. Anyway, Bitfinex hires law firm to challenge critics. All right. So apparently, Bitfinex has hired Steptoe and Johnson to threaten legal action against a pseudonymous blogger. We know who they're going after. It's Bitfinex. And kind of seems like trying to kill a mosquito with a bazooka. No, Tone? What's up with this?
I don't know. It doesn't look good, right? Like, it's. I remember back from like listening to like the Bitcoin Uncensored podcasts, and they were like, anytime someone tried to like threaten legal action against them, oh, we know this guy is scamming. If you're gonna go after a couple of trolls, so I don't know. It doesn't really look all that good. Again, if you're not doing anything, then I don't know. Though I will say that people are like leaving Bitfinex because of all of these rumors and speculations.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But hey, if they're making $1 million a day, like some claim, then what are they worried about?
Yeah. It's interesting because Ron Torosian, who's a public relations specialist recently hired to represent Bitfinex and Tether, he said, "I think you can infer who like." Who they asked him, who are you gonna sue? I think you can infer who. So it's coming.
So since we're on Bitfinex, so I know a lot of people want me to do a video on explaining the CME futures, and I've been talking to a couple of people. So one of the guys that I was talking to, who I may go on camera with, because he used to trade futures like back in the day, back in the day, so he knows a lot about that market. And he does trade on like Bitfinex and other exchanges. And he told me something interesting. So I figured I may not have time to look into it myself, but we got enough viewers, so maybe they will. So he actually put some Bitcoin, not even a tiny amount, put some Bitcoin on Bitfinex in order to sell the 2x hard fork stuff, because they offered like futures trading. And people were already trading the 2x fork chain on Bitfinex like way ahead of time.
Right.
You remember that, right?
Adam Back made quite a lot of money from what I hear.
Well, here's the thing, right? So the way this guy tells me is you put X amount of Bitcoin on the exchange. Let's just use a round number. Let's just say, I have no idea how much he put, but let's just say 10, right, as a round number. And then you sold them for like, I think like 15% or 20% or wherever it was, right? So he actually got that percentage back. So let's say you put 10 on there. Let's say you sold them for 1.5. 15%, right? So he got like 1.5 Bitcoin profit. So he got the profit, but Bitfinex, the exchange, has until the 1st of January to return your original Bitcoin that you put there. And he still hasn't gotten his original back.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. So that tells, and again, I don't know why.
I think it's in their terms and conditions, actually. I vaguely remember that.
Right? But if they have the money and the Bitcoin, why are they, like unless it's like a time lock thing, but whatever it is, it looks like Bitfinex owes people a lot of Bitcoin on the 1st of January. So let's see if they deliver on all of it.
There's multiple futures, right? There's even like Bitcoin Unlimited futures that they did back in like February or March.
Right, because like it's weird. Like I know that contract probably said like delivery on the 1st, but the fork's been canceled. Why, like as a company, why do you want to hold on to other people's extra Bitcoin, right? Aren't you again, you've been hacked twice already, right? Like, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't looked into it. All I know is this guy's waiting to get his originals back as of January 1st. So even if they're late by 24 hours, there could be, the Bitcoin world is on January 1st, exactly the day that you're going to be paying attention. But yeah, so just keep that in mind. Like I didn't know this at all because I've never used Bitfinex, but this is what I'm hearing from my channels.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they're holding a lot of it back, and I mean January 1st is looking like a big date. But anyway, that's it for stories here. Do you want to get to price tone?
Yeah, I'll get the price. Let me do my screen share. Actually, I'm going to jump onto the CME stuff because I'm curious. So I just pulled this up. Yeah, I mean, hey, I know we're not really prepared to talk about this, but they didn't exactly give us a heads up here. All right, so let's see. So CBOE Bitcoin USD futures are cash-settled future contracts, are based on the Gemini exchange auction.
Wow. That makes it less manipulatable because those settle at 4 p.m. Eastern every day.
No, but why would it mean less manipulative if they're only using one exchange to get the price?
Well, no, but it's a blind auction, so you have to submit bids and then they announce it. There's no ticker on the Gemini auction. It just sort of happens every day at 4. It's a blind auction.
Oh, but okay. So again, but if you're bidding in that auction and you know you're the biggest bidder, right, then you have the advantage of knowing what the settling price is going to be.
No. You don't know the settle price until they announce it. So you put in blind bids on both the buy and the sell on the Gemini auction.
Okay. I got to think about this some more because if you know you're a huge player and you know you're going to have the biggest bid, then you have the advantage of knowing what the settlement price is going to be.
No. You don't get to know whether or not your bid's gonna go through. And if there aren't enough sellers, I mean, or if there's somebody can do the same thing on the other side. They can sell as much as they want on Gemini.
Okay, their contracts are fairly small. The CME futures will be 5 Bitcoins, and this one looks like it's 1 Bitcoin. Okay. So this is not as leveraged as the CME futures, so keep that in mind.
What do you mean? How do you figure out the leverage multiplier?
Well, right here, it just says the contract multiplier is 1 Bitcoin.
So is it 1 Bitcoin per contract? Is that
yeah?
Okay, all right. So and are contracts the same price on both places, or I don't really understand why it would be more leveraged.
No. The contract doesn't actually like. So the spot price of the contract will be basically the expectation of the price of Bitcoin on expiration day, right? Which is almost always the current price plus, an interest kind of expectation, right?
I see.
I mean, they're usually going up. I mean, they occasionally go a little bit off, but like the price of the S&P future is almost the same as the underlying S&P index. Like almost the same, right? It's when the future is like a month out, it trades at like maybe 1% off or a little less than that, and then it just slowly combines, and that's mostly because of interest, right? It's like locking up your money, but it moves fairly quickly. Like the price fluctuates with the underlying index.
Okay.
Which in this case, so this will be weird, right? Because the underlying index, I mean, it settles based on that auction, but every minute of every day, you need to know what the underlying index is trading at, right? Like the S&P futures have an underlying index of the S&P 500. So you kind of have a benchmark every second of every day. Now, what happens after 4 p.m. When futures on the S&P are trading, but the S&P 500 underlying index is not trading? Now the futures can kind of go buck wild with an expectation of what price the S&P index is going to open the following morning. Now, what happened during the Trump election is that Trump won unexpectedly, and the markets panicked that evening. So the S&P futures fell like 100 points, confusing it with the Dow. Sorry, guys. The S&P futures fell like 100 points at night, but by the time the morning rolled around, it had already like completely recovered in the futures market, and it opened somewhat kind of like the price they closed at the day before. But the futures can kind of run wild in the background while the S&P is not trading. But once the S&P is trading, they don't really deviate from the price other than like the interest over a month or whatever that slowly goes away over time. But in this case, like I don't see, remember, this is what the CME said. The CME said we have two indices, right? One is the settlement price that publishes once a day at like 5 p.m. when the futures settle, 5 p.m. Eastern. And the other one is a ticker that changes every second. That isn't used for settlement, but it's used for to help the price discovery of the futures contract versus the underlying.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I even though the Gemini auction is double blind, the volume on it isn't very much. Right. Sometimes it's maybe 100 Bitcoins, maybe I mean a few $1 million, and you can easily manipulate that auction in either direction. So yeah, something to think about. But yeah,
and they'll have weekly. I see weekly contracts, so they're not going out too far. And the trading hours are going to be. Those are the extended hours, right? So the regular trading hours are 8:30 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. That's Monday. And why is it? Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah, we'll see. I will say this is not going to be nearly as leveraged as the CME. So this seems like it's, I mean, you still buy a lot of contracts, right? But your margin's going to be fairly high. These are not going to be all that leveraged. They're not going to be as leveraged as the CME, which makes sense because the CME is way more experienced at dealing with leveraged futures contracts than the CBOE.
Okay. All right. Cool stuff.
Oh wow, and there's more. Anyway, I guess I'll go through it on. I'll go through this. Maybe I'll talk about it.
5 contracts.
Contract. I'm not sure what that means actually. Reportable position. I'm not sure what that part means.
I'm sure that's what you have to report to the government in some way, shape, or form.
Anyway,
a person may not own or control more than 5,000 contracts net long or net short. Oh, that's interesting. Huh.
It's 5,000 Bitcoin. And what is that 1,000 restriction? May not own or control more than 1,000 contracts net long, net short for SPT. So what's the difference between these two?
Commencing at the start of the trading hours, 5 business days. Okay, so if it's coming up in 5 business days, you can own up to 1,000. But if it's further out than that, I guess you can own 5,000, something like that.
That's a little interesting, right? Because I guess so the volume will come down. They're gonna be. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll try and find time to go through the spec. But Most of the volume is going to be on the CME futures. That's what I'm expecting.
Well, I mean, they're trying to compete with them, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
They get a week of exclusivity. All right, price. Let's take a look.
Yeah, let's take a look. So let's see what's going on. So now we're clearly in the double top land, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the weekly. We're not pulling back yet. We're still not out of the woods, okay? I mean, we did correct like 1,000 points the other day, like more than that, like 1,200, 1,300 off the peak. I'm just going straight to the daily chart. I mean, the weekly chart basically, if you're trading the weekly chart, to me right now, this is a cash position as a trader. Just to be clear, right? I mean, Bitcoin is a buy and hold investment. If you have to trade it properly. And if you have a piece of Bitcoin that you're trading, this to me told me, you know what, I need to be in cash for a little while and look for shorting opportunities. But if it breaks out, you go back into a long. So any candles with a 1 on top of them, red or green, is not really tradable to me. This is where I wait. So here we go. So I drew this yellow line when I said yesterday on my show and even this show yesterday morning, that this yellow line covering the very top is, you know what, that's your stop loss, right? The moment the price goes, whether you exited and went to cash, then this line tells you, hey, maybe I should go back in. And your shorting opportunities come, the real shorting opportunity should have came below the doji, this second red line, that never really crossed. And if you did not trade, if you jumped on it early and you traded the prior doji, then yeah, that trade is in jeopardy and this trade is costing you some money. Now, according to this time indicator that I have, and it's, again, a little different than the textbook because I don't skip this candle, is that the moment I have a green candle with a green number on top of it that starts to trade higher than the prior green number, this indicator basically tells you can get back into the long trade, and this 9 should kick off another countdown to 13. Now, remember, there is already a countdown to 13 happening from this 9. So this is why this has a 7, and this does not yet have an 8, but if the price goes above the all-time high, then it would. This is now what I would call a double top in a way, and we have now spent way too much time above 1150.
11,500, you mean?
Sorry, 11,000. I'm still not used to that. We've now spent enough time above 11,500 that the probability of a serious correction from this 9 is a lot smaller today than it was, yesterday morning when we did the show, right? A lot smaller. And for me, I may be a little risk averse and may not jump on the bullish trade at this price. But the moment I start to see today's candle closing at new all-time highs for the day, I'm expecting, another run up to another 9. So while I'm leaning bullish, I don't really see like the indicator tells you can buy now. But me personally as a trader, I would probably wait till it closed around 12,000. Like if I see that it's going to close above 12,000 for today by 7 p.m., I'm back in the bullish trade, probably looking for like 14,000, 15,000, or whenever the next 9 comes. That's kind of my view on it. Here's the 4-hour chart, and I have my line on the hourly chart. So the 4-hour chart, right? It gave you these 9s, and it gave you this risk line. So, sorry, not risk line. Risk line. Sorry, and we're closed above this risk line. On this candle. This is, when was this? Yesterday at 7 a.m.?
That was 2 days ago. 2 days ago.
No, the 3rd. Yesterday at 7 a.m. right here. This one.
Today's the 5th.
Today's the 5th?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I really don't know where we are. All right. So, yeah, you're right. 2 days ago. So we closed above this risk line. It looks like it wants to go back up, right? just ignoring all toppiness, and the momentum is really, really strong. And here's the hourly. Here's the thing that I drew yesterday. And I'm just going to extend it, right? Like it's still bouncing off at this line, but you can clearly see this double top.
Yeah.
Right. So that's it. So to me, I'm not going to delete these arrows, but the probability of these arrows is now very, very small. And if we can start to close above this line, I become bullish again, right? I mean, this is trading, guys. It's hilarious. Like Tone said it's going to go down, so he has to keep talking about it going down for the rest of history. I'm like, no, you're a trader. If it starts to go back up, you buy it, right? So
is it always bouncing off the 200 moving, or is it the 50?
That's the 50. Yeah, so it's really, you're right. It's really treating the 50 as an amazing
support level, yeah.
Support line, right? And now if we combine that with, let's say, an ascending triangle, oh, these are green, right? You can now go ahead and look at it like this way, right? Where this is an ascending triangle, and you know exactly where this might actually, let me do it like this. Right, so this is a really beautiful looking. I'm just doing a best fit here.
You might need to go down a little lower, but yeah.
I need to extend this a little bit.
Okay. Yeah,
right.
Too.
So this is like a really awesome ascending triangle. Maybe ideally, maybe like this. Right. I mean, it's up to you how you draw it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are drawing these things all over the place, but. In ascending triangle, then you're like average. Okay, so what is the fat part of my triangle, right? So let me go here. Let me grab a price range like that. What is that? That's about $800. So there you go. So that is the expectation upon the breakout here for an $800 pop. Maybe a little later, but this stuff is
sometime
Bitcoin.
Today, basically.
Yeah, could be, right? Because it'll be almost like open air, right? So, yeah, and of course there could be a head fake, right? I mean, this is why trading is difficult. But especially as this 50-day moving average starts to come up, and starts to hug the $12,000 horizontal resistance, which has now been hit way too many times. So at this point, I am leaning bullish. I mean, we had a little correction, a little too little in my opinion. We fell from 11,900 down to 1,600, so we fell about $1,400. Couldn't sustain it. See, I have this yellow line here, and right after our show yesterday, we fell below it, but never closed below it. So that's what I was really looking for in order to have a bigger correction, but we didn't get that, right? So if you were short in this area, you either, I was calling for toppiness literally at the top. So if you did take your profit in this area or even shorted, you should not be out a lot of money. It should be a very small loss on your trade, assuming you went short. If you didn't go short at all and you happen to get out in this area, you only missed out on a very small part. But the potential for a drop from here was really, really big. So now I would be buying the breakout. So let's see how this triangle develops.
Yeah, cool stuff. All right. That's very interesting. Tone's bullish again, so you guys can stop trolling him.
I'm in my no trade zone right now. I'm in my no trade zone.
Those two yellow lines are the no trade zone, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah. But now basically, if we. Yeah, I would actually raise this one up a little bit at this point, right? Like if we start to fall back below the 50-day moving average, so I would actually contract the no trade zone a little bit, like even up to 11.3 now, right? Because now if we come back down here and we start closing below this new higher yellow line, now it creates too many double bottoms and you're below the 50-hour moving average. So it creates more momentum to the downside, right? So yesterday, this was my low. Today, it's this cluster here.
I see. All right, good stuff, and I want to thank everybody that's joined us this morning. Very, very early for me and Tone. I don't know how I'm gonna keep doing this, but I guess I have to. Anyway, thank you all for joining us, and I wanna, yeah, just say that this song is done.